Day 695 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 1897, redistribute characters to make all strings equal. The difficulty level is easy, so you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given an array of strings, words, zero index, in one operation. Pick two distinct indices I and j, where words of I is a non-empty string, and move any character from words of I to any position in words of j. Return true if you can make every string in words equal using any number of operations, and false otherwise. All right, y'all, so that sounds simple enough, but let's go ahead and take a look at these examples anyway, just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. So, in example 1, we have our input word equals an array of strings ABC, AABC, and BC. The output is true. Explanation says move the first A in words of 1 to the front of words of 2 to make words of 1 equal to ABC and words of 2 equal to ABC. All the strings are now equal to ABC, so we return true. Boom, y'all. So let me just bring this, copy and paste this over here so y'all can get a better visual representation, but it's pretty self-explanatory, right? We just want to see if we can rearrange a character or move a character from any one of these strings to another string so that all the strings are equal, right? And we can do that any number of times, right? Any number of operations. Right here it says in one operation is pick two distinct indices I and j, where words of I is a non-empty string, and move any character from words of I to any position in words of j. So in this case, our words of I would be words of 1, right? Boom. So it says we're going to move the first A in words of 1 to the front of words of 2. So we're just going to take this A from words of 1, boom, because it's zero index. This would be words of 0. This is words of 1, and this is words of 2. So we're going to take this first A from words of 1, boom, and we're going to move it to words of 2. Boom. That's one operation that we did. That counts as the operation. After we perform that operation, as you can see, all the strings are equal, right? So it's ABC, ABC, ABC. Since it was possible to make all the strings equal, the output is true. Boom. Now let's take a look at example 2, where it's impossible to do, right? So in example 2, our input words equals an array of strings, first string AB, second string A. This time the output is false. It says it is impossible to make all the strings equal using the operation. So in this case, we have these strings right here, right? Boom. There's no way we could move a letter from here over to here to make it equal, right? Because if we move this B over here, the strings are still not equal, right? Boom, because now this is A and this is AB. Similarly, if we move this A over here, then it's still not, the strings are still not equal because this is A and this is B. So it's impossible to make these strings equal by performing the operation that it gave us. So since it's impossible to do, we return false. Boom, y'all. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. Solution's not that difficult at all. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to get the total number of words in the array. So we're going to say let n equal words.count. Boom. Then we need a dictionary to store the frequency of each character across all words. So we're going to declare a variable called freq. We're going to say colon, that's going to be a dictionary. Key is going to be a character, colon, value is going to be an integer. And then we'll initialize it, say equal, and create a blank dictionary. So square bracket, colon, square bracket for our blank dictionary. Now we need to iterate through each word. So we're going to say for word in words, we'll open up the brackets. And we're going to iterate through each character in the current word. So we're going to say for char in word, open up the brackets. Now we're going to increment the frequency count for this character, and if the character doesn't yet exist, we'll default to 0. So we'll say freq square bracket char comma default colon 0. Come outside of that and we'll say plus equals 1. So what this is going to do, We already created our dictionary. Each time we see this char, this character in Word, right? Each time we see it, we're going to put it here on, it's going to be the key, and the value is going to be the count. We're going to keep count. So we're going to start our count from 0. That's what default 0 means, meaning we're going to start our count from 0. And each time we see this character, we're going to add 1 to our count over here, right? So that's how this dictionary is going to work, and that's how we increment the count of each time we see a character. Then we need to check if every character's total frequency is divisible by n, and this is going to ensure every character can be evenly distributed across all words. So we're going to say return freq dot values dot all satisfy, open up the brackets, $0 dot is multiple, open up the brackets of colon n. Boom, y'all, that's all she wrote. Let's give it a run. Make sure that runs properly before we submit it. It's accepted, so let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. And look at that, y'all. 25 milliseconds beats 33.33% of users. Not too bad, not too bad at all, y'all. So, with that being said, y'all, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.